Hey everybody, this is Everyday Commentary. This is a video overview of this knife. This knife is the Benchmade 535. It is the mini Bugout. This is the orange non-coated version. There is also a white handle black bladed version. I do not like coated blades, so I didn't really care what color it was as long as it was not a coated blade. Like all of my overviews, I'm going to go through the specs and talk about what I like and what I don't like. So this knife is a small folder. It has a 2.82 inch blade. It weighs 1.5 ounces. I verified both measurements myself, and it comes in at about $110 to $120. It runs a blade of S30V steel, just like the original Bugout, and then it has these ultralight injection molded plastic handles with a small inset of steel for the axis mechanisms. The knife itself rides on a stamped steel deep carry over the top small pocket clip. You're going to compare the big clip to the little clip. There's the big clip on the mini grip and there's the little clip on the Bugout. In many ways, these knives are direct competitors. This also has a similar just under 3-inch blade, and they are both clearly designed at the EDC market. They both use an axis lock. This uses a thumb stud. This uses a thumb hole. A mini Bugout with a thumb hole would be balls. I don't know if that will ever happen. But this is new for 2020. It was announced at SHOT Show, and it made it to the market less than 3 weeks after it was announced. So good job, Benchmade. The knife has a lot of stuff to like. It has basically two things that I do not like. So, well, three things. I'm not a huge fan of the warning cone orange. If you want to do a color that stands out in the woods, if you drop it, blue also works. But that's not a big deal. That's just like a preference. One thing that I don't like, and I don't like this on pretty much any knife, is the exposed rear tang. It's this portion right here. And the reason I don't like it, especially with an axis lock knife, is because suppose you're carrying something in your pocket and it gets jammed in there, some piece of lint or something. That didn't do a very good job because it is the hard tip of a... Let's see. That's not a good idea. Let's not do that. Let's do just a piece like this. Okay. So, pretend like these pieces of paracord are lint in your pocket. And because there is an edge here and there are two edges here, sometimes they could get jammed in there. Like so. And this is not a theoretical concern. I've had this happen quite a few times. And then you get some kind of weird, squishy, non-lockup. It doesn't happen all the time, but it has actually happened to me, every once in a while. It's kind of a pain. You figure out pretty quickly because you don't hear the telltale snap that the axis lock usually makes, and then you're like, that's not great. But look at this knife. No rear exposed rear tang. It is just phenomenal. This is one of my favorite knives of all time. This is a knife that I will probably never get rid of. It just always works. It always works. It's not quite as smooth or as snappable as the Bugout, which I'll get to in a second, but no rear tang. And yeah, sure, you can still get stuff jammed in there, but it's much less likely to happen when you don't have basically three little prongs, 1, 2, 3, trying to grab things. So the exposed rear tang is the thing that bothers me the most. The color's a preference. Here's the other thing. I think this knife has proven that it sells well enough that they did not need to use S30V. I mean, S30V is not a bad steel. It's not a great steel, but it's not a bad steel. I would have loved to have seen the knife come out in this steel, which is 20CV. A knife in 20CV, in my mind, just feels like a better buy than a knife in S30V. And This knife is like 160, 170. This knife is 110. I would much prefer to have the money go to the steel, but they're trying to hit a price point, and this is a really competitive part of the market, so I'm not gonna like get bent out of shape. But S30V, not my favorite steel. All right, so all the things I do like. Everything else about this knife, pretty much, I love it. The Bugout was sort of the first generation of knives that really perfected the geometry for the axis lock. There is literally no blade play in any direction, and unlike earlier axis locks, this thing just fires out like a rocket, and that is a huge boon in my mind. This makes this knife easier to use, more fun to carry. I love me some mini grip, but I can't pop this knife anywhere near. Let's see right there. Anywhere near. I need to give it a good stern wrist flick to get this thing to pop open. I have tightened this thing down and tweaked the crap out of it so it has no blade play in any direction, but it's not anywhere near as snappy as the Bugout. A couple things that are interesting. I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but let me see if I can get this on camera. Okay, so there is the, if you want to call it, the detent for the axis block. And as you can see, when you close the knife, the detent rolls, rotates, and then all of a sudden the lock bar passes over it and falls down into it. So if you think about it like the lock bar, chink, falls down, right? Falls down into it. If you see here, the detent is a little more pronounced so that it's both taller and it appears to be either scooped or actually angled just a bit past 90 towards the blade, so that when the lock bar crosses over that ramp, it has a lot more force to get over and lock into place. And I think that ultimately, aside from a little bit tighter tolerances in the pivot area, that is what gives the Bugout and the mini Bugout their snappy feel, is that in order to get over that increased ramp angle or the scoop in the ramp, you have to put a lot of force on the blade, and doing so makes the blade really fly out of there. It's just an excellent knife to deploy. I love this handle. I love the handle shape. People were like, oh God, it's going to be so small. It's fine. I mean, it's a full 4-finger knife. It's totally fine. Unless you have like giant bare hands, you're going to be fine. I mean, I wear a medium-sized glove, and I don't have like a lot of room to fart around with, but I have plenty of room in the final analysis. I like the lanyard hole where it is. It doesn't really bother me. It's completely unobtrusive. It doesn't screw up any of the ergonomics or the looks of the knife. I also really like how light this is. At 1.5 ounces, this knife is just about the perfect pocket companion. You drop it in there and you basically forget that it's there. It's super great. It's even lighter than, it is substantially lighter than this knife. And I know that this knife came out and they made the G10 handles partially as a response to the complaint of the original feeling hollow, but that never bothered me, and it didn't bother me there, and it certainly doesn't bother me here. The last thing that I really want to draw attention to is, man, I love this clip. This is one of the best clips on the market. It has perfect spring tension. It rides perfectly in the pocket. It is a little bit, maybe not. I thought it was a little bit flatter than this one, but the fact that the clip is basically just up and out of the way means that it's not going to hit this like really crucial area in your hand when you're holding the knife. Unlike the clip here, which totally will, it's going to hit you right in that pressure point zone where you're really ranking down on it. For me, the upturn on the clip falls between this finger and this finger, so it's not terrible. But if I move my grip around at all, it's going to hit that point. Whereas there's basically no way I'm going to hit this point. Unless I'm like way down here, in which case I'm doing something temporary and unusual. The clip is basically completely out of the way. This is one of my favorite knives to carry right now. It is one of the best knives that has come out in 2020. I think this is absolutely in the running for knife of the year. I love this knife. As much as I like the original Bugout, this knife can basically do everything the original Bugout can do, and it's in a slightly smaller package and slightly lighter package, and that's all good for me. So this has been the overview of the Mini Bugout. A review will definitely be coming soon.